All right. What's up, everybody? So, yeah, just as you guys saw, um, your boy got 1 year sober. And, not gonna lie, it's been quite the experience getting to this point where, you know, I got a full year of just not doing anything. And, like, this includes, not only um, you know, everything, every other drug under the sun. I mean, uh, but to emphasize, like, your boy don't even what use nicotine, alcohol, nothing. And I gotta say, it's been a trip. It's been quite the trip. It's taken me from when I first started. Oh my God, here I am going back and forth between the nether. Um, it's taken me about, let's say, I think 5 years, almost 5 years to get to this point where, like, I'm truly satisfied with being sober, or like the idea of being sober for the rest of my life. And I feel like for a lot of people, that's like a huge fear, you know, when they're first getting sober, or they're thinking about, like, oh, I'm going to stay sober for a whole year or 6 months, and I think that was, like, always my obstacle, to be honest. I always felt like, yeah, like, why am I going to be sober for 6 months, 3, 4 months, if I completely intend on drinking again, or I completely intend on, smoking marijuana, or taking some shrooms or something of that sort. It's like, at the end of the day, I'm going to, you know, essentially relapse. And, I use that in the directest definition of the term, truly, because, which is really just going back to any previous behavior, right? And of which, and that's exactly what I would do on those instances where I'd have 6 months or I'd have 8 months of sobriety. And I think majorly it would be from that perspective, in addition to the idea of, like, well, that I couldn't confront being sober the rest of my life. And admittedly, I will say that, you know, that is just about the same situation I'm in now. Because as much as I have this perspective that, perhaps I'm much more comfortable towards the idea of being sober the rest of my life, I'm also, I would say, in this position where I still hold on to at least one form of reservation, which is, oh, if I can be, if I can get to a point in my life where I'm making, let's say, $100,000 passively a year, so that's like 10 grand a year, no, 10 grand a month, what am I saying? Then, okay, I will be satisfied with the position I'm in, and I'll be willing to use again, you know? And, but realistically, as I think about that concept, another part of me is like, yo, why would I even make the decision at that point to use? If I had gotten to that point, a direct result of my sobriety. And, but nonetheless, even though I think it would be unlikely of myself to be in the position where, oh, I'm making $10,000 a month, essentially passively, right? Sitting on my ass. then I think that's a solid position, where you can, being someone like myself who has had an experience with addiction, or compulsive behavior associated with using substances. It's like, I think that's the most mature way I could go about it, right? I could go about setting a reservation for myself, because anything else would be completely inappropriate and or not, um, you know, a realistic within the concept of like whether or not it would be, I guess, acceptable. Um, and full disclosure, none of this is scripted or nothing. Uh, and admittedly, I think this is probably how all of my videos are going to go. But going forward, which yeah, I'm going to be talking about a lot about just recovery experience, my experience within using drugs and etc. in the past. And from being somebody who was, using drugs actively for about 3 years and then on and off for at least 2 years after that, getting a month sober there, 3 months sober there, 5 months, and then going on and so forth for, the 4 to 5 years I've been in recovery. Yeah, it's, once again, it's been quite the experience, and, and I'm happy to share about it. And I think this is also to remind me, who knows, maybe I'll be at a point where I'm making that, $10,000 a month passively deal, and I might watch all these videos and think to myself, yeah, why would I go back? you know? But once again, who knows, right? We just take it day by day, right? Or just for today, as they say, which, admittedly, I gotta say, out of all the other years that I've tried to maintain my sobriety for a whole year, this was the only year where I ever went to NA. And, being Narcotics Anonymous, for those of you who've never been to anything like that, it's just a bunch of people talking about their recovery experience and active addiction, passive active addiction. And, admittedly, it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. Watching everybody talk about their experiences, and this is a lot of times, I'm not gonna lie, in comparison to a lot of other people, damn, like I really had it easy. I never had an addiction to any quote unquote hard drugs like methamphetamine or heroin. Have I had my run-ins with some of those substances? Yeah, I've had my run-ins with derivative substances of those. None of the direct ones. Granted, I've never done heroin, and nor have I ever done methamphetamine. I've done MDMA, hydrocodone, and such. And, really, as I evaluate my past, I think to myself, how did I get away with not falling into using one of those substances and or having one of those substances being my drug of choice? And I think the truth of the matter is that I just didn't have access. I just didn't have access to those substances in high quantity. For example, like I had a period of time when I was popping hydros, and I'll talk about that story more later on in another video. But it was really, had I had more access to that substance, I would have easily found myself using that every day, becoming addicted to that substance, easily. And but that's not what happened. What did happen, though, being a person who lives in California, the substance that did get a hold of me, that I had a lot of accessibility to, was marijuana. And, I think one of the harder things about getting off of smoking weed is probably a lot like what people who are alcoholics confront a lot, which is, oh, um, dude, it's just weed, man. It's just weed. It's not a problem, dude. Come on. It's like this little thing. It's not that big a deal. It's not a hard drug. Like, you're not addicted to, like, as like I would say, people would say often, or I said before, like meth or cocaine or heroin. It's like, and when I think about the times of what things I should say that brought me to relapse in the past, oftentimes it was that. And I'll make another video talking later on, talking about what things, all the things that would bring me to relapse in the past, right? But that's what really would make it hard, and I think that's what oftentimes I would confront, is that I would be in this position where I was like, you know what, I'm fine. Every time I've ever lapsed or relapsed on using marijuana, or any substance of that matter, it's like I never fall into it completely, like I would when I like the first year of myself trying to get sober, or having periods of times of sobriety. And, and so like I would think to myself, maybe I'm not an addict, but I'd have these situations where like I would use once and then I'd, maybe use the next day, or maybe I'd wait till the next weekend and I would use then. And, being somebody who started smoking and using drugs, around 16, 17 years old, up till about 20, it's like every single day, I'm in this position now where really I don't have any what is it brain capacity that I can sacrifice to the negative impacts of using substances again. Really, I need to keep up with as much as I possibly can. And or in other words, I'm trying to keep as much as the cognitive functioning and general brain health as possible. And yeah, I can't risk it now. I can't risk it. And that's another thing, like, as I'm, 1 year sober at this, 5th or 6th year of myself in my recovery, as I achieve this, I think back and, because I had a lot of people as like, that I've met before, suffered from addiction, and who, dude, like, you go to these NA meetings, you'll see these people that are like, oh yeah, I was using all the way till I was 30, I was using all the way up till I was 40, before getting into recovery. And like, don't get me wrong, I think I'm blessed the fact that I got sober earlier, than comparison to other people or started my recovery. And not talking bad about these people who got their sobriety, when they were 40 and 30. It's just like, dude, like, if I think my brain has like ill functioning right now, being a chronic marijuana user previously, imagine what people who were like chronically using methamphetamine or cocaine or alcohol for that matter, really any substance, including marijuana, for that duration of time. It's like, God, imagine the amount of damage. And I think to myself, in addition to that, like, what brings you to using for so long? Like, yes, mental health is a big thing. Yeah, depression sucks, and people who've gone through addiction in any degree have gone through that. But at the same time, like, guys, when I was using, I always thought to myself, all right, you're 18, you're 19, you're 20. It's like, you can still mess around. Life hasn't hit you yet. Your parents haven't kicked you out. You got a job at the very least. You're going to school, even though you're failing hella classes. It's like, at least you're passing one or two. And, but when you're 30, or like when you're when you get in your later 20s, or once you're 21, 22 or something, you got to get your act right. You have to get sober. And because at that point I didn't feel like I had the excuse. I didn't have that, oh yeah, I'm still a teenager, I'm still exploring the world kind of energy behind my substance use. Because once you get around like 20 years old, people start looking at you different. And not only that, but everything else around you changes. And that means everyone. Just the whole dynamics of what's expected from you by society, what kind of achievements you're supposed to have, and so on and so forth. And really, it's very intense to have to confront. And especially when you're in the depths of your addiction, and because even at 20 years old, or turning 20, when I started my recovery and attempting to maintain sobriety, that was a very real thing for me. It was very real, because people are starting to get married. What is it? They were getting careers. They were graduating college. And then here was my ass, like, failed a bunch of courses, was in the depths of my addiction, and terribly going through body dysmorphia. And yeah, but you know what? I think what I'm very grateful for, despite all those things, was the presence of, just the amount of support. Because luckily, and in comparison to other people, sadly, is the presence of support I had from my family, friends, etc. Even those that were still using. Admittedly, though, when I first got sober, what I did was that I spent 2 weeks just by myself in my house, detoxing essentially, and it was probably the saddest days of my life, truly, because in that moment I was confronting that. That I had burned away so much opportunity in my life, and so much capacity for success. And I'm not saying that I don't have that potential right now. I'm definitely doing a lot with my life, ever since starting my recovery, of which I'm very grateful for. But still, I see these people that are like, they're 15, 14, they're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, because they started some kind of, YouTube channel, or they, I don't know, they're all about their fitness, and they've been, working out since they were 14. They're in, amazing shape, and they make a fitness Instagram account that blows up, and they're selling some proteins and stuff. And you guys know the deal, right? And God, I just think to myself, and why couldn't I have thought about doing that myself? Why couldn't I have thought of putting myself there? And you know what? God, I think really, when it comes down to it, I mean, everybody's got their own reasons for why they found themselves using. Don't get me wrong, everybody does. But for me, what led me to finding myself using for so long really has the most correlation with just my perspective myself, man. Just the perspective myself. Like, I I just hated myself, dude. Like, I had grown up like super overweight, and and damn, I used to get bullied as all hell from that shit, man. And it was funny because like I would most people would probably say that I was the most popular kid ever, back in the day. But you know, I sure as hell didn't feel that way, because because what the reality was that the people that would hang out with me, the people that were, you know, would give me attention essentially when I was younger, were not always people, but a lot of them that would pass by me at school, etc., would just say horrible, horrible shit involved with my weight, and you know, but I'd always laugh along with it, and I'd always be very cool with it. But every little bit of that would just eat up about my soul, and it just harvested a sense of never being enough, truly. With the result of other influences, which maybe I'll get into later. But and I think a lot of people might be asking, man, Marco, you've been you've been in recovery for almost 5 years at this point, 4 or 5, I don't remember, but have you gotten better from all that? And I'm like, and I think the answer is yes. I think I'm a lot better now. Definitely making progress, but it's an everyday thing. Trying to improve within oneself, right? And trying to recover from the traumas that, one went through during their childhood, or even during the time they were using. So, yeah. And every day I'm sober, I get to get closer to that, luckily so. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. So, what's the major reason for making this video? I think just to let everybody out there know that getting a year sober, or just getting sober, I should say, and starting just generally starting your recovery, really is the best thing you could possibly ever do for yourself, and you will never regret it. That's one thing I'll definitely say. No matter what happens, you will never regret getting sober. And maybe in the temporary, you might see maybe there might be some girl or something you're chatting up with, and she wants to smoke or do some other drug with you or drink, and it's kind of lets her down to know that you have to be sober. Or some similar situation, maybe with friends that are offering you or want you to drink at their wedding, in the long run is what I'm referring to more so. You always look back on the situations where you said no and be thankful that you did, and you always feel that you're living your life to the very fullest, and not allowing one moment to pass without the contribution of your own perspective on what happens to you, and where the direction of your life. Because I gotta say, that was probably the scariest thing for me, is thinking like I would end a year of my life during the time I was actively using or on and off, and I'd always think to myself, damn, where would I be if I had just gotten sober? Like, at the very start of this year, where would I be? What would have I done with my life for the time that I had? And majorly, what I think about now in reference to that, the answer to that question is so much. You would have gotten so much done had you been sober for that year, you know, completely, you know, not just, you know, if you're having that weekend use, you know, how you going to drink, going to the bar, or whatever, you know, you're smoking whatever you want or using whatever during the weekend. I'm telling you, it's going to bite you in the ass every single time, no matter what, you know, because adverse consequences, that shit's real. That shit's real. And I'll make a video about talking about that. You know, here we got a bunch of content coming out, guys. Bunch of content. Though, you know, it always will, some way or another. You know, it could be as simple as like, you know what, hey, I gotta wait another week so that I can invest in this, you know, this computer that I'm gonna use like for my work. You know, it's like, it's super simple, you know, but it really, it's like, it's a really simple concept to wrap around your head, but at the same time, a lot of people don't want to accept it. And that's what it is. It's not a matter of whether or not it's true. It's a matter of like people want to accept the reality of the level of impact that it has. And because denial is a bitch, you know, really. And, you know, but happy to have a year sober, everybody. I really appreciate if you guys, somebody that knows me on this channel, then, you know, I thank you for being part of my journey. And you know what? If you're subscribed to this channel, hey, I'm even more appreciative for you. You know, you're really out here doing the most. And, yeah, I couldn't be happier with you know, the results from this last year and just these 6 years in general. I mean, I don't know, we could always think of what ifs, right? But we don't do that here. No what ifs, right? At least while we're proceeding with our own recovery. While I'm here, I'm definitely going to talk about it. I'm definitely going to talk about it. But yeah, I really appreciate all of you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you all have a great one. Later.